So, welcome to the Big D streams. The Big D has had some technical issues tonight. He thinks he's got it working. He hopes he has. I think we are on to a winner. The Big D is just going to check this. He does apologise profusely. But we've got to get this right. This is only the Big D's second ever live stream. And he is. It looks like he is live. Yes. We will leave that just like that. Yeah, so, Big D, live stream. Talking about Manchester United and what has been going on over the past couple of days. But yeah, I mean, questions, thoughts in the chat, please. The Big D likes to engage with his viewers. The Big D wants to know what you think of the new layout of his little logo up here, little banner down here, and his little other socials up there. Please, thoughts in the chat. The Big D is always interested in what is on your mind. Anyway, tonight, we've got a few bits and pieces that we are going to be talking about. There's been some developments with regards to Manchester United and some outgoings with regards to certain high-profile players, former fan favourites, and we will be getting into that. Rashford, Garnacho, Onana, and Sancho, various other people, but we will be talking about those in just a minute. And as I say, if you have any questions at any point, you know what to do. Stick it all in the chat. The Big D reads all of the chat, and he's always interested in what is on your mind and all that good stuff. Anyway, we are going to talk about Andre Onana first. So apparently, according to Sky Sports, Andre Onana is on the transfer list. And is, well, not necessarily on the transfer list, but is in line for a potential transfer to Monaco. And I think that would be a good move for Andre Onana. It hasn't worked out for him at Manchester United. He seems like a really nice guy, and I don't really want to sort of criticise him too much because, well, he's a God-fearing man. He's very polite. He never sort of, has any boo-boo faces or anything like that. He always seems to have a good attitude, and he never speaks out of turn. He does try his best. He's just not good enough. And there's just been far too many high-profile mistakes from Andre Onana, and it's just not good. And plus also, he replaced a bona fide club legend in David De Gea, and people used to say that David De Gea was prone to the odd mistake, and he was. But I've said this before on other videos. A goalkeeper is only as good as the team in front of them. You can usually put, a yard brush in the nets if you've got a good defence in front of you and a good midfield that can keep hold of the ball and we can score goals and all of that. I mean, just look at the AC Milan team that won in 2007, the Champions League. They had Dida in the nets, and he was rubbish. So, but he had Maldini, Nesta, Pirlo, Kaká, Filippo Inzaghi in front of him, and they ended up winning the Champions League. So you can have a bad goalkeeper in your nets so long as everything else is good. I mean, but the point I'm trying to make is David De Gea used to make some mistakes, but so did Van der Sar and so did Peter Schmeichel. But the aforementioned used to have a great team in front of him to sort of save them. So for every bad mistake that Schmeichel or Van der Sar made, they would have Cantona, Rooney, Ronaldo, Mark Hughes, Ruud van Nistelrooy, whoever, scoring goals the other end of the field and saving their blushes. And unfortunately for David De Gea and now Onana, they just haven't quite had an elite team in front of them to bail them out of jail. However, the difference between Onana and David De Gea, unfortunately, is that Onana's mistakes have just been like a circus act. It's just been ridiculous. I mean, it's been so bad at times that one would feel like you could pluck someone out of the crowd and stick them in the nets and they wouldn't do as bad. But credit with Onana, he has made some outstanding saves as well, but it just hasn't quite worked out for him. And the reason he was bought was that he was a ball-playing goalkeeper, sweeper keeper, if you like, and that would make a difference in the team. And I'm sorry, but I've watched most Manchester United games between the time that he signed up until now, and I've been at the games as well, sat in the Stretford end and other places in the stadium, and I've watched him, and I just haven't seen enough from Onana to warrant selling David De Gea and buying this guy for 50 million. So his time's up, I think. He's had his chance. He's had a couple of years. And you could argue that the whole team's been crap, and it has. But Bruno has shown glimpses of excellence, and so's Kobbie Mainoo and one or two other players. So, but Onana just, it's just not a good fit, unfortunately. So if we got, I don't know how much we get for him. He must have a couple of years left on his contract. He's going to demand some kind of decent pay packet. I'm sure they can afford to pay for him, but it's what we're going to get out of him. I certainly don't see us getting 40 or 50 million for him. If we can get 25 for Onana, that would be ideal. 25 for Onana, and for them, and to get him off the wage bill as well. I think that would be ideal, to be quite frank. But we'll soon see. And I mean, who can we get to replace him? The only person that stands out for me is Diogo Costa. I think he is sort of the best bet. I mean, he's got a reasonable buyout fee in his contract. I think it's about 60 million. He's the current Portuguese number one, and I think he's at Porto, or is he at Sporting Lisbon? I need to double check that, and I'm going to double check that right now, because he is a class goalkeeper. He's brilliant on Football Manager for those guys watching who really enjoy Football Manager. But I'm just going to check this now. He currently plays for he plays for Porto. I thought it was Porto. Yeah. Porto. So maybe about 60 million for him. So if we sold, let's say we sold Onana for 20 million. Let's say 20 million. And then put that towards the 60 million. That means he's only really cost 40 million, Diogo Costa. And he's a big step up. He's the modern goalkeeper. He's class. He's Portuguese, so Bruno knows him. Amorim will probably know him as well. So I think that would be the best bet. And yeah, Onana's had his go. I think it's time for someone else to start, to be given a chance at Manchester United. But you never know. You know, Barada, Jason Wilcox, who has now been promoted to the director of football job, he might have someone else in mind to play for Man United. Someone that we've never heard of, perhaps. Some obscure goalkeeper from Slovenia, which would be all right, because the last good goalkeeper that came out of Slovenia was Jan Oblak, the top goalkeeper for Atletico Madrid. So, you know, fair enough. But Onana's had his day, I think. So I think it's time for Onana to go. So if he goes to Monaco, then all the best in your future endeavours, Andre. Fair play to you. Now on to Marcus Rashford. So Marcus Rashford is trying his best to flirt with Barcelona. And I personally think that Barcelona are just using him as a pawn in the transfer market, because there's no way they are going to pay the money to Man United for Marcus Rashford, even if it's 40 million or 30 million, for a player that's not going to start. He can't get in the Man United team. And we finished 15th in the Premier League. And he can't get in the Man United team because he doesn't work hard enough. So how on earth is he going to get into a Barcelona team that got to the semi-final of the Champions League? And the two wingers that play for them are Lamine Yamal, or Yamin Lamal. I always get that mixed up. But you know who I mean? The 17-year-old amazing wonder kid who's getting compared with Pele and Messi and all these guys. So he's not going to take his place. And he's not going to take the place of Rafinha, who scored about 95 goals last season. Good grief, he's deluded if he thinks he's going to start for Barcelona. And they're not going to pay 40 million for a player to sit on the bench. And he's not going to play up front. What, they're going to replace Robert Lewandowski with him? If there's one thing Barcelona don't need, it's goals. And even if they did need goals, they're not going to buy Marcus Rashford to score goals for them. So this whole notion of him going to Barcelona is just ridiculous. Aston Villa don't want him. He's been at Aston Villa for the past 6 months. They don't want him. He's got a reasonable buyout fee, 40 million. It is reasonable, and he clearly hasn't done enough at Aston Villa to warrant them paying 40 million to buy him this summer. And I think we're going to be stuck with Marcus Rashford, quite honestly, unless Saudi Arabia come in for him, a Saudi Arabian team, Al Hilal or someone like that, because they'd pay 40 million for him, no problem, and they probably pay 60 million for him to sit on the bench. But it just seems like no one wants him. It's a sad state of affairs, really, because I used to really like Marcus Rashford, and he does have talent, but he just doesn't have the work ethic. And he hasn't shown that he's got the work ethic at all, even while he was at Aston Villa. Because the whole notion that was suggested from the Rashford camp was that it was the toxic environment of Manchester United why he wasn't performing at his peak. But he went to Aston Villa, a well-oiled, well-put-together, hard-working side, and he didn't exactly set the world alight there. I mean, if he'd scored 20 goals, then fair enough, but he didn't, did he? So I think we're going to be stuck with Marcus Rashford. But he's absolutely deluded if he thinks he's going to Barcelona. I hope I am proven wrong. I genuinely hope I am proven wrong. If Barcelona come in and pay 40 million for him and take up that 300 grand a week option on his contract, then I will happily hold my hands up, stand in a corner with a dunce hat on and say I was wrong. But I don't think I am wrong at all. Marcus Rashford will not be at Barcelona next season. Marcus Rashford will still be at Manchester United, albeit on loan at Brighton or someone like that. And we probably won't even get all of his weekly wage back off Brighton or whoever he goes to, Bournemouth or wherever, because they will be well within their rights to, what can I say? Say he's not worth 300 grand a week for us to pay per week for him to play for us. He hasn't done anything recently to warrant us doing that, because if he had, he'd still be at Manchester United. So we'd maybe get 100 grand a week. So I think we're stuck with Marcus Rashford until his contract's up. But on to Alejandro Garnacho. Alejandro Garnacho is a cheeky little bugger. He really is. Walking up and down that driveway with a Rashford 9 Aston Villa shirt on. Honestly, Alejandro Garnacho, he's another Marcus Rashford. He really is. He's someone that thinks he's better than he actually is. Because the thing is with Garnacho and Rashford, they are both good players. Fair enough, they are. But they are very one-dimensional. They are fast and they can finish, and that's it. So you put them in a team that sits on the low block and blitzes teams on the counter-attack, then they would be devastating. But if the team then that they're playing against sits on the low block, then they're useless. That's why they're not very good in this Ruben Amorim system, because they're just not intricate enough. They don't create enough chances in open play to be able to unlock and unpick defences that sit on the low block. They're just not good like that. And they're not very strong. They're not very dynamic. They're just, as I say, one-dimensional. But the thing is, with these players, what kind of irks me, they act like they are ballers. They act like they are Ballon d'Or nominated players, but they don't work hard enough to warrant that. And they don't. They actually don't work hard enough. I've watched Alejandro Garnacho. I remember I was at the opening game of the season a couple of years back, and I was sat right at the front in the Alex Ferguson stand, so I was up close and personal with Garnacho, and he started on the left that day, and I was watching him. His ball control was awful. He couldn't pass a ball. He was the worst player on that pitch. It was ridiculous. But the thing is with him, and this probably goes to his head a little bit, he's crap for about 4 games, but then on the 5th game, he'll score a bicycle kick out of nowhere that wins goal of the season. Like he did against Everton. And fair enough, it was an amazing finish. But when you want a consistent team that picks up 3 points week in, week out, you can't hang your hat on players who are flash in the pans every 6 games. It was the same with Paul Pogba. He was another one, but we'll get to Paul Pogba in a minute because he's on the list as well. The rant list. And that's what this is right here, the rant list. Anyway. So Garnacho wearing that number 9 Marcus Rashford shirt on that driveway on his holidays. It's like you need to, humble yourself a little bit, young man, because Man United have done a lot for you and you've had a lot of chances, and you have had a lot of chances over the past 4 years or however long it's been, mate. And you've played a lot of games, but you haven't done anything to warrant acting the way that you are acting at the moment. And this notion about he's doing that to force a move, no one's forcing you to stay, pal. No one's forcing you to stay. It's time for you to move on. So whatever the hold-up is for Alejandro Garnacho leaving Man United, it just needs to be, both sides just need to be realistic, draw a line under everything, and just say all the very best in your future endeavours. Because it's absolutely ridiculous. All these games, and I believe Bruno Fernandes posted or clicked a like on that picture, and I don't know if, see, the thing is, on Insta pictures, obviously you can post a few and then you swipe across. Now that one that Garnacho had, I mean, look it up on his Instagram, on Garnacho's Instagram, right? I think it's the 2nd or 3rd one along. So I think you can like the whole batch without realising there's one on there that's dodgy. So perhaps we'll give Bruno Fernandes the benefit of the doubt, because he is a class act at Man United. Even all this business with, talking to Al Hilal and, potentially leaving and all of this, it was done very tastefully. And the guy seems to be a gentleman. And even with the criticism with Roy Keane earlier on this season, where Roy Keane absolutely lambasted him, he still handled that with class. Like, he didn't care. He was, and he does put the effort in. You might think that he's a bit, nonchalant. Not nonchalant, that's the wrong word. You might think he's a bit petulant. That's the word I was looking for. And, throwing his hands up in the air and all of this, blah, blah, blah. But he's emotionally engaged in the game. And he's Portuguese, so he's a bit, that's kind of like a Portuguese, Hispanic kind of temperament, But he never, ever looks like he doesn't put the effort in. And those are the kinds of players that you want. So I can't see him clicking a like on that after seeing that Rashford 9 top. Because I think he's got more respect for Man United and the Man United fans as well. But yeah, Alejandro Garnacho. It is a shame that things haven't worked out with Rashford and Garnacho, to be honest, because I mean it's all been said before. Rashford is a local lad. and he's come through the ranks and all of that. But I don't know. He's just not the player that's going to take us to the level that we want to get to. And I don't know where we'd put him in the annals of Manchester United history. I mean, if you go back to Fergie's era, he'd be a bench player. He'd be a squad player at best. He'd be like, so long as he put the effort in, which I think he would, because those Ferguson teams would knock the laziness out of him, and Ferguson would as well. But let's go back to the 08 team when we had Rooney, Ronaldo and Tevez up front. He'd be a bench player in that team, obviously. But he would be like... Ferguson's teams used to have jack of all trades. So John O'Shea was a jack of all trade that used to play across the back four. He could play left back, right back, and in the middle. And he would, you cover for players who would be injured or suspended. And then Park Ji-sung was the same in midfield as well. He wasn't the starter usually, but he would fill in and he was hard working. I think Rashford would be like a jack of all trades in the forward line. He could play left, right, or in the middle. But he's certainly not a starter. He's not even a starter now, and we're crap. So it is a shame on that front. And Garnacho as well. I mean, he promised a lot, but it just hasn't worked out. And I used to enjoy singing his name, and all the fans used to sing his name, Viva Garnacho. That's a class chant, So we're going to miss that, unfortunately. But don't forget, what do you guys think? You guys who are watching, if you've got any questions, please, or concerns, put it in the chat. The Big D is always interested in what is on your mind. What do you think about this Garnacho situation, wearing this Rashford 9 Aston Villa shirt? Do you think they are being petulant and stupid, or do you think, their agent has got them to do that to help grease the wheels for a potential transfer to Italy or to Aston Villa? Maybe he wants to sign for Aston Villa. Who knows? But yeah, if you've got any questions, if you've got any thoughts, any comments, please put it in the chat. I'm always interested. But yeah, also, I've been reading today that Sancho and Juventus could be a possibility. Now, that's an interesting one, because, see, the thing is, Sancho might actually suit Italian football because it's slower, and the standard is obviously lower as well. And the thing is with Sancho, he's a guy that likes to feel as though he's a big fish in a small pond. And Juventus, they're not a big club anymore. Historically, they're big, don't get me wrong, but they haven't had a good team for a while. And if he went there, he would be a big name and he'd be in a smaller pond. Now, what's interesting about that one, why it might work all around, is because of what I've just said there. And also, because the league is slower, his style of play might suit that. A bit like how Scott McTominay has done really well over there at Napoli. Because Scott McTominay going to Napoli, all of a sudden he turned into Zinedine Zidane. It was weird. And didn't he win Player of the Year, Serie A Player of the Year or something like that? And it's like, wow. I know people are waxing lyrical about it. And then fair enough, God bless Scotty McTominay. He was a good player for us. And to be fair, we should have kept him. But he went over there and turning into Zinedine Zidane. It was just absolutely insane. I think he's got about 15 goals in the league or something like that. So if Sancho can go there, and Sancho is, to be fair, a more talented player, certainly not as hard working, but he is a more talented, skillful player. And if he can just sort of align that with a little bit of work ethic, then he might do well over there for Juventus, and he might suit that club. Now, why it might benefit United is not only would we get Sancho off of the wage bill and maybe even get 10 million for him or whatever, we could even maybe do a deal with Vlahovic. Because we're crying out for a number 9, and Vlahovic would be ideal for us. He's nasty, and he's a fighter, and he's a prolific goal scorer as well, and he's nasty as well, and he's a big character, and he's almost like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, only fast. You look up Vlahovic, prime Vlahovic on YouTube, and you'll see what I mean. And we need that kind of personality, like what Roy Keane always says. Like, so we've just got, imagine we've got Cunha, and it looks like Mbeumo, he's going to be coming, but I'll get to Mbeumo as well in a minute. If we get these players with personality and character and fight, they'll just be darlings of the Stretford end. I mean, look at Martinez. We've got Martinez, and he's a fighter. You know, he gets sent off, and he puts the boot in at times as well. But he's a personality, and he's aggressive, and the United fans love that. They absolutely love that. So, and Vlahovic is a hard worker as well. So, if we can do a deal with Juventus, Vlahovic plus 10 million, say, or whatever, or even a straight swap, that would be class. Then that would work all around, in my humble opinion. But maybe Vlahovic doesn't want to come to the Premier League. Maybe Juventus don't want to sell. I mean, I've heard that they want to get rid of Vlahovic from time to time. Excuse me. But you never know. You never know. Maybe he wants to leave. But Sancho might suit Juventus, and Vlahovic would definitely suit Manchester United. So, you know, it's early stages at that on that point. Juventus are just exploring this as it stands. So watch this space. The situation with Anthony, I'm not entirely sure what's going on at the moment, really. I mean, it's still quite quiet. I mean, I've heard and read some things about Erik ten Hag, who has just taken over at Leverkusen, wanting to bring Anthony over there. Now, Leverkusen have just got a big fat bumper paycheck from the Scousers for Florian Wirtz, and I still wince at the fact that the Scousers have got him, but they've got him, and that's that. So they've got a lot of money there. So, I mean, Garnacho and Anthony to Leverkusen, I don't know, 40 million each. I mean, that's not a bad deal. 80 million for those two players, and plus getting them both off the wage bill as well. I mean, that would be a good deal. And Ten Hag liked those two players. He knows Anthony. He's got the best out of Anthony at Ajax, and he knows Garnacho. Garnacho, well, they both know him. So I mean, that's a win all around. One thing I will say, I mean, you've got to give Anthony credit. He went to Betis, unlike Rashford. He went to Betis and he took that team by storm. Look at the goals that he scored. It's a highlight reel. He went over there and dominated. I don't know how many goals he scored, but he scored a lot, and he got a lot of assists as well. And they were works of art. So he's went over there and he's made the most of it. So credit to him. And to be fair, he's made enough of an effort over there where if Man United decided to keep hold of him and he expressed that he wanted to stay at Man United and have one more go, I wouldn't be unhappy about that. I like Anthony. I think it just didn't work out yet. His first season he wasn't too bad, but his second season he had some personal issues, so it didn't quite work out for him on that front. But we'll see. We'll see. Watch this space. But I think Anthony and Garnacho to Leverkusen would be indeed. I think that would work quite well. And the standard over there in Germany is well, it's slightly lower than the Premier League. So you know they might find the feet over there. But we'll see. We'll soon see. But I did read something. So according to Fabrizio Romano, there's a player from FC Copenhagen called Rooney Bargi, right? He's 19 and he's going to Barcelona for 2 million. And the position he plays is right wing or inside forward, or he's a bit like Amad Diallo, actually. He plays in the same position as Amad Diallo, right? And he's absolutely class. When we played him in the Champions League a couple of years back when Ten Hag was in charge, he tore us to pieces. Go back, and he was only about 17 or 18 at the time, right? Go back and look at him. He was class. And I've since looked him up since that match because he was that good. And he's an absolute wonder kid. And he's class on Football Manager as well. But the point is, they're only getting him for 2 million euros. So why are we playing 65 million for Brian Mbeumo when we can get this wonder kid for less than 2? 2 million is... And I know he could be a flop, but he might not be. But the point is, it's worth 2 million to take that chance. And it's not even £2 million, it's 2 million euros. And he'd get games, because it's not as if we're good. But I haven't heard any of us, any news of us actually going for this guy, unfortunately. But according to Fabrizio Romano, and you can look this up on his socials, on X, 2 million euros. Why, oh why, are we not getting him? And this just sort of brings back to another point. Like all these players that are going to different clubs, like they're going to Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Man City, Liverpool, wherever, they're going to all these places. And why are we not being linked with them? And they're going to these places before they've made a name for themselves as well. And now, I don't know about you, but I play Football Manager. And on Football Manager, you can scout all the wonder kids in the world. And they'll tell you who's good and who's not, right? And it's predicted so many players over the years. There's been so many times I've been watching Sky Sports News and I've looked at a player like Ruben Diaz signing for Man City. And I'm like, I bought him 2 years ago on Football Manager. He was class. Why are we not getting him for 50 million? But spending 80 million on Harry Maguire. And it was the same with, say, Erling Haaland. I knew about Erling Haaland when he was 17. Even Ollie knew about Erling Haaland when he was young as well, because he managed him. And we had the chance to get him, but we didn't get him. So why haven't we got someone sitting in a room at Old Trafford with a laptop just playing Football Manager and making lists of wonder kids that we should take a chance on? Why isn't that happening? Especially when they're 2 million euros from FC Copenhagen. That is worth a punt. And that's what I'm saying. But I don't know what's going on over there. But maybe, I don't know, maybe the United scouts, maybe Jason Wilcox is looking at these players, but he's just keeping it tight-lipped. I don't know. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I will give Jason Wilcox the benefit of the doubt at the moment because he does seem to be on the ball a little bit, and I quite like the signings that Ineos have been making so far. But anyway, yeah, again, if you've got any questions, if you've got any thoughts, please put it in the chat. The Big D is always interested in what is on your mind. But yeah, so also, little blast from the past. Paul Pogba looks like he's found a new club. And it's funny because it was only a couple of months ago where there was talk that he was going to come to United on a free transfer again. Paul Pogba, I mean, again, he was another one. Promised so much but delivered so little. I do want to see him have a couple of years of being a world beater. You know, he still does have time, and hopefully he goes to Monaco and he does well there. But it looks like they're putting together a little package, 2-year contract for Paul Pogba in time, hopefully, for him to get fit and to get back in that French team. But we will see. We will certainly see. Yeah. Paul Pogba to Monaco. Watch out. That's on its way. And yeah, so Brian Mbeumo. This is the last thing. Brian Mbeumo, it looks like Man United are going to get the man. Latest I've looked, according to Sky Sports, and that is Brian Mbeumo is leaning towards Old Trafford, and things are quite quiet at the moment, but that's only because Manchester United are currently putting together a second offer. Slightly more expensive than their initial offer, but a second offer nonetheless. And they are confident that that second offer will be accepted. And then once we've got Brian Mbeumo over the line, hopefully we can concentrate on signing a prolific goal-scoring number 9. But who it'll be is anyone's guess. It could be Victor Gyökeres. It could be Osimhen. It could be Vlahovic. It could be anyone. But anyway, we're going to leave it there. This was a nice, short, brief one. Slightly earlier, slightly shorter than the last one. But thank you so much for watching, those who have watched. It's been an absolute pleasure. And remember, if you've got any questions or anything like that, put it in the comments. And the Big D will see you in the next one.